Good morning and welcome to the David and David on Real Estate podcast. We are at an episode number 121 and we have Ashley Lowe joining us again, and we're going to get into a great topic. We're going to talk about real estate investing. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, and Ashley, we on the previous episodes that we've done with you, we've learned some about your history, your previous work experience before you got into real estate, how you've overcome challenges and used your self-diagnosed introvert personality to your advantage and things like that. But I think we have to catch up a little bit because I don't think we've got the full history of how you got to where you are currently in your current role at the firm that you're with now. So maybe just catch us up a little bit that way.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of real estate investing, my first property was a studio in downtown Toronto near Yonge and Dundas. And I was originally going to move in, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to rent it out and stay with my parents. And so I ended up renting it out, and that became my first investment property. And then in the building, actually, they started allowing Airbnbs because this is when it first started. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a try. I think it's going to be good experience for me. And I think this is actually the way that I look at a lot of things is like, I'm just going to try it out because this is going to give me experience in terms of helping my clients in the future. And so I started Airbnb-ing my condo. I got all my furniture from Kijiji for free. I was very hands-on at that time. I got me and my girlfriends, we had pizza, we painted the unit, and they hate me for it. They told me they'll never do it again. I painted the furniture and then I Airbnb'd it for a while. And I had that property up until recently, 2017, I would say. And then I sold it to buy another property to live in. But in the meantime, I had purchased another property in the east side of Toronto. And that's still a rental property of mine. And I still have it today. And then a few years ago, I just bought this property that I'm in right now. It was a single family. I converted it into a triplex. So basically, I live on the main floor. I rent out the basement and the upstairs. And so that's sort of my real estate journey for my investment properties.
That's absolutely incredible. How did you decide to do short-term rentals with the studio apartment? I know you mentioned that the building allowed Airbnbs, but what actually gave you the courage to kind of try that?
I think it was actually just being a user. So this was when Airbnb first started. And if I were to visit New York or LA or whatnot, I would Airbnb because that was the cool thing at the time. For a while, hotels had no business because everyone started doing Airbnb. And so when I found out that I could do that at my condo, I thought that it would be cool to try it out. I already had some reviews being a user on the renting side. And so I decided to become a host. And it was very interesting, managing and finding cleaners and coordinating all of that. It was very good experience. And now I have the experience to share with my clients as well.
So
And
what was that like? Like, did the place get trashed or was it a good experience?
It was a good experience. So the condo had a rule that you had to do at least 3 nights or something like that. And so that prevented from any really like parties, that kind of stuff. It would be people coming into the city, as a tourist. It was actually generally pretty good. I just felt that it was very hands-on. I think if I were to do it in the future, I would probably get a property management company because, I would have to, even though I didn't do anything, but I would have to coordinate the cleaner, or if somebody wanted to early check in, I had to, coordinate. It was a lot of work, I felt. But you definitely made more money in the short-term space than in the long-term rental space. I just did it for fun.
and actually, what was the vacancy rate or the occupancy rate like? Did you find that was hard to fill the apartment or?
I was actually very surprised. I had virtually no vacancy. So again, at the time I was actually living with my parents, and I figured, oh, I'll Airbnb the unit, and then maybe on weekends I can stay downtown and go out with my friends, you know, and I had no opportunity to do that. It was basically rented, I would say maybe like 28, 29 days of the month. The vacancy was very low.
Wow,
And this is
that's
right downtown, like centrally located.
Yeah, this is right by the Inn Center. And so I guess that's why. I mean, granted, I didn't do it for a very long time. I think I did it for about a year. I mean, I'm sure there would be cycles, but during that time the vacancy was very low.
wow. And why do you think real estate investing is so important?
I just think as a realtor, we're self-employed. So it's good to have another source of income just in case. To me, it's like a rainy day fund. And so that's why I think it's important. It also allows more flexibility, I think, you know, um having done this for a while now that I have 3 properties, it's really allowed me to I think leverage my existing properties to make more money with a different income stream. And I think also just having that experience going through this process, it's made it very valuable for my clients as well. When I'm servicing my clients and they're asking me questions about renovations, about, you know, rental rates, about what areas are good, I can speak to my own experience on it.
So is a big part of your current professional practice now finding investment properties for clients? Like, is that a major part, or is it just, or it's just something that you're comfortable doing when the opportunity arises, or are you doing it all the time?
Yeah, I would say it does make a big chunk of my business. Obviously, you know, my investor clients, they have houses too, and they still need to move because they have a life, you know, they have a growing family or whatnot. But it's, you know, oftentimes I started off servicing young professionals, and then now I can no longer really say, but we're young professionals, but everyone, all my clients have sort of grown up with me at the same time. And so, you know, when we were looking for their first house, they ended up maybe using their condominium and renting it out as their first rental property. Or now they're maybe refinancing their home to buy investment properties. And so even though I do service them on the just buy sell side, for their principal residence, a lot of them now have the ability to buy investment properties. And so a lot of it is managing, you know, helping them manage their investment properties, renting it out. And then, you know, I've gotten a lot of interest also about the renovation projects that I do as well. And so I have been servicing a lot of those clients as well. And it's been helpful because being able to stay in touch with my clients through helping them rent and re-rent, it basically means I'm in touch with them for sure, like every couple of years, and it helps me stay top of mind, which I think is very helpful in my business.
Yeah, I think working with investors, you know, investors are always looking for their next deal. It's a very close-knit community where if you've helped an investor build their wealth and reach their financial goals, they're never going to forget that, right? They're never going to forget that Ashley was the one that found us this rental property. This rental property is generating this much income. It appreciates this much in value. Now they've bought their second property. And the other thing is investors don't have to uproot their whole entire life when they do a transaction. You don't have to pull their kids out of school. They don't have to change utilities. They don't have to pack. They don't have to move. Yet they're always looking for their next deal. So it's easier to do business with an investor and to do more transactions with one person if you're always looking for the next property and the next deal for them. It's just a smarter way of doing business.
Yeah, I always say it's really good rainy day fund. It's a really good college fund for your children, saving for retirement, whatever it is, because it's just a passive source of income. And eventually, you know, you can just refinance that property and buy another property. And so I feel like the hesitation sometimes is to have that first investment property, but once they have that first investment property, they're
Sure.
sold. They're just waiting for when they can refinance and buy their next one.
Yeah, I always joke the first of the month is coming up, and those that don't own investment properties don't know what that means. But for those that do, you're cashing those checks, and those checks come every single month, and that's a great feeling, and it's a great rainy day fund for any industry, but especially for realtors, being solopreneurs, where if you stop working, 99% of the realtors stop earning income, right? So you don't ever want to be in a situation where, retirement comes and you still have to work because you didn't safeguard your financial situation, you didn't safeguard your future, and you didn't create that rainy day fund for yourself. So I think as a salesperson who's earning commission, um, I want to be out there selling because I want to sell, because I love what I'm doing, because I love helping my clients. And the best way of doing that is to make sure that I don't need the commission, right? It's not a necessity for me. It's a great option, but having multiple income streams just gives you the flexibility to be able to say no. And I think that's very powerful in any situation.
Yeah, I think having that abundance mindset really makes a big difference. Like, I think, having my business now, I'm in a position where I can sometimes pick and choose clients. Like, I've definitely fired clients before where maybe if they're not on the same wavelength, but that's also allowed me to spend more time and energy on clients that we do have the same values, we work really well together. And I feel like I've been able to grow my business that way, to be able to pick and choose who necessarily I work with, and I've been able to kind of fine tune on clients that I enjoy working with, and then also how, like, wealthier clients as well.
Yeah, the toughest thing with any sales, I think, is when you feel like you're desperate to make a sale. I got to get out there, and so like that's a lot of pressure. So if you could take the pressure off yourself and say, well, I don't really have to because I got this other source of income coming in. I think that'll come across when you're actually going to talk to people about, about getting a listing or about looking for a property for them, because you don't sound like a desperate salesman, though. I'm trying to sell you something. Nobody wants to be sold. Everybody wants you to provide them with the service or help them or provide some benefit to their life, but nobody likes being sold, right? So if you take the pressure off yourself, it works to your advantage.
And realistically, it makes a good business case as well, because you look out for the best interests of your clients. They're going to come back to you. They're going to refer you other clients. You're going to do better in the long run because of that too.
Yeah, as opposed to looking out for your own self-interest, because you want the commission check because you want to put food on the table for your family. So whose interests are you putting in first? Right? And building trust and building a long-term relationship, you need to put the client first at every step of the game. And it's really hard to do that if you're desperate. And clients can smell that from a mile away. They know that, if you're not looking out for their best interest, if you smell desperation, they can sense that from a mile away. So it's harder to build trust and to have that connection with them at that time as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've had this discussion last week in our office because we were just looking at what we did last year, and we're primarily a real estate law firm. We're closing transactions. That's our bread and butter, but we also do wills and power of attorneys for people. And I've been pushing, our lawyers and the clerks, like in every single transaction we have with people, we should be asking them like to make sure that they have a will and they've got power of attorneys. And some of the pushback I got from our people internally was like, it felt like they're trying to sell them wills, like, we real estate's slow right now, so let's do more wills and try and sell more wills. I said, no, we're not selling wills. We're not providing a proper service to our clients if we're not in the course of a regular discussion about the real estate transaction, at some point bringing up whether or not they have a will, because you're talking to them about, are you taking title as joint tenants or tenants in common and rights of survivorship? Like, it's a natural part of the conversation. And you're not providing a proper legal service if you don't bring it up at some point. And if they have a will, great. We're not saying, oh, we want you to do it over again so we can get the business. If you don't have a will, great. We might be able to do it for you, or we might have to refer you to somebody if you needed some sophisticated estate planning or talk to your account. It's not always about our business, but in the course that we're providing proper service to our client. And don't think of yourself as a salesman. You're not selling them wills. You're having a discussion about what their needs are. And if we could do it, great. But people think, oh, I'm not comfortable selling that.
I totally agree with you. I think sometimes it's just about reframing it in your head. Like it's not about you. You know, we talked about that a little bit about me being an introvert and wanting to inspire others. Like it's not about me. And then therefore, as a result of that, my anxiety goes away. Similarly, in terms of what you just said, you know, it's not about me. It's about servicing the client, wanting to help the client, because if they have a proper will in place, that's going to help them in the long run. And so I think it's just that mental shift sometimes where you just got to reframe it. And then I feel like it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, if you go into that conversation thinking that you're selling them something, a lot of people have a negative connotation associated with selling. Oh, selling is bad, selling is evil. You're, forcing that person to spend money that they don't want to spend. But if you go into that situation saying, hey, I'm going to help this person, and this is going to help their family, and this is going to take, a lot of anxiety off the table in the future, then, it's a completely different mindset and a completely different approach.
And that's the type of conversation I think I have with my clients too. When I'm saying, hey, you know, you should think about having an investment property because it's going to make you feel more financially secure. It's going to, you know, I always say, kind of the older mindset is to just, oh, you spend the next however many years paying off your mortgage. But to me, that's just putting money under a mattress. Like you're not doing anything with it. And so when they realize that they can actually make money with the money that they've saved, that really changes the conversation with them, I feel. And that's when they have that buy-in to say, okay, yeah, like this, I want that financial security. I want to be able to feel like I can provide for my next generation or whatever it is that's important to them.
Yeah.
Right. And
Leveraging
the key is
that
you're having that conversation with them and putting that in their heads and having a discussion with them in a comfortable way where you're looking out for their interests. And it might not be for them today, or they can't really see that yet. But maybe, you know what, we can circle back on this in 6 months or in a year, because at some point it'd be something for you to really think about, as opposed to you coming across, oh, thank you, I just helped you buy your house to live in. Now I got to sell you something else. I got to, I really want to, I'm desperate to sell you the next property. Like you can't think of it that way. You can't approach it that way. You got to be doing it. I'm trying to help you along as my client. What's good for you? And have you ever thought about this? Because now once you get settled here, it might be a great thing for you to have another property or your next property as an investment. And here's why. You don't want to talk about it today? Let's make a note. Let's we'll come back and let's go for a coffee in a few months and we can talk about it.
And David, I'm sure you agree with me when I say I've never had a client that bought an investment property and then regretted it. Like all of them are so happy and so grateful that they have an investment property and it's only done good things for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really passionate about helping realtors, become investors because I see it all the time where realtors have been in the business for a really long time and they've made the mistake of not buying and investing in real estate. And I see how it's impacting their livelihood decisions and their ability to take time and spend time with their grandkids. And, I had a situation where I had an 86-year-old come into the office and tell me about a new listing that he had. And as a broker owner, I leaned over, I got excited. Oh, you have a new listing. Tell me about this new listing. And he had this shocked look on his face. And, I tell the story all the time. And he said to me, no, David, you don't understand. I don't want to be trading real estate. I'm taking on this listing and I'm doing this because I have no money in my account. And this was a mentor in the office, a mentored a whole bunch of the top realtors that we have in the office right now. This was, a person who had, one of the best listing presentations ever in the industry that other realtors, wanted to get a copy of this listing presentation, and it's one of those situations where, as a leader and as a broker owner, I looked at the situation and I said, oh my God, I need to inspire my realtors to not be in this situation and to learn from this, right? And to, make that difficult choice to get into the market as early as possible. So when I heard your story, Ashley, of you owning multiple investment properties, you being involved, you being a younger realtor under 40, I think it's a great story that, I wanted to showcase and share with the industry to inspire realtors to, not only have these conversations with their client. It's great to take a W for your client and to do well for your client. Like, I applaud that all the time. That's amazing. But when is the last time as a realtor that you took a W for yourself? Right? That you sat down and said, okay, you know what am I going to do today that is going to influence my finances tomorrow? That's going to help my kids, and my family tomorrow, right? And you have to have a long-term outlook. Like, as salespeople, we tend to have a very short-term perspective. We're looking at our next deal. Like, what's my next deal? Where is my next lead coming from, right? And I think that's a mistake. I think you have to have a very long-term perspective in sales. How am I going to, what's my branding like? How am I going to carry myself? What's my reputation going to be in the industry like 10 years from now? What are my finances going to look, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now? And that's how you have to start making decisions and approaching this industry to really make a big impact.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, if it wasn't for my first investment property, that studio, I mean, and that's the thing too, is sometimes people lose sight. I'm like, well, it was just a studio that I bought. It wasn't a 2-bedroom. It wasn't a big unit. It wasn't an expensive unit. But if it wasn't for that studio that I started off with, I would have never been able to have 3 investment properties now. And I'm looking at a 4th right now in Vancouver. And again, I would never be able to be in this position. Like, yes, it obviously helps that I have my business, but if it wasn't for the investment properties, I would never be able to do this.
So, what advice would you have to realtors that don't own any investment property but are thinking about purchasing their first investment property?
I would say sit down with your mortgage broker and see what you can do. I mean, I feel like if you already own a property, to refinance on it, that's basically the first step. And then go from there and talk to other realtors that have, I mean, I'm sure if you're in your office, I'm somebody around you has an investment property. And so, just get started, really. That's always my thing that I say to people is just get started, because once you start, you're already halfway there.
Yeah, you're gonna get hooked.
Yeah.
Awesome, Ashley. Well, listen, it was great having you on, and amazing conversation and very inspirational story. So thank you so much for coming on and joining us and
Thank you so
telling
much.
us a little bit about yourself and sharing. And this is great having you on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And again, allowing me to step out of my comfort zone.
Well, it's been wonderful. You've been a great guest, and you're very inspiring, both in your professional success, your transition, from realtor to investor, and how you use your personality traits to your advantage in all of it, and know yourself, and then translate that into providing great service for your clients, and at the same time looking after yourself. So it's been great, Ashley. Thank you very much for inspiring us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.